All right, we are live for our WWE TLC predictions here on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. Ralph, it is the last pay-per-view of 2020 for WWE. They've been very good despite the lack of crowd and everything in the Thunderdome. Can they close it off with one more good pay-per-view?
Yeah, I think there's going to be certainly more than enough here that people can take away from this and enjoy. I think that Drew McIntyre and AJ certainly just even on paper looks like it should be a really good match. Obviously, everybody knows that Roman Reigns has been one of the top things, one of the top performers in WWE since his heel turn. And Kevin Owens is also very good in the ring. That feud is interesting. So yeah, I think those two matches alone are going to deliver. And I think between all the other matches, I think there's enough intrigue and enough the ability to surprise people. I think that's there as well. So I think it's going to be a make out for a good pay-per-view overall.
I agree. I think obviously the card is very Raw heavy.
Yeah.
But with the exception of the two SmackDown matches. And the two SmackDown matches, I think, have been really the best storylines with Roman and Kevin and Sasha and Carmella. And Carmella and Sasha, I think that storyline really only has been put together a month, maybe a month and a half. Same with Kevin Owens has been a short story, but they've done a really good job with both those matches, hyping those up.
Yeah, especially Carmella, because she's probably one of the people that gets a lot of slack and a lot of criticism for her ability in the ring, or lack thereof, from what people say. And I really feel like she's really held her own and kept this interesting ever since she's come back. And their brief match that Carmella had with Sasha on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, even that was good. So I actually expected him to go out there and put on another good performance.
Yeah, I agree. Carmella has been really, really good. I think I don't know if you've been watching Talking Smack on the WWE Network, or did you watch Talking Smack on Fox Sports 1? There's been a lot of story progression on there, and I know we have said on this podcast numerous times, if it's not on the main shows, it's not worth talking about. But I might have to say here, this is stuff that needs to be brought up on SmackDown or Raw for Raw Talk and Talking Smack. They've been doing a really good job in those two shows, honestly.
Yeah, they've certainly been doing a really good job. Even the bits with Kevin Owens and Paul Heyman and some of the other stuff that's going on. Everybody, I'm sure most people have seen the interaction between Paul Heyman and Big E. It really makes you wonder why this stuff isn't put on the main shows, because it's good stuff. I mean, it's stuff that I think people could resonate with and stuff that would be beneficial for the wrestlers. So it's just unfortunate that it's happening on that show, because you got to think that not a lot of people are watching it.
True. Maybe they have to add some of those things to Raw to help with their horrible ratings. I know, yes, they're still in the top 10, and but their ratings are the worst they've ever been, and they're declining at a much faster rate than television in general. So hopefully Vince McMahon is seeing what is going on with Talking Smack and SmackDown and can apply it to Monday Night Raw, because while there's some good storylines heading into TLC, it could definitely be better on Raw.
Yeah, that's without question. I mean, Raw has not been, every now and then again, you get like a solid show out of Raw, or a solid good couple segments. But for the most part, I think most people would agree Raw has not been very good. I think that Retribution has been terrible. The reveal of Mustafa has really been kind of squandered, because I don't think a lot of people care about Retribution. And I think that was probably one of the biggest things that has been turning people away, just because it is, it's just not good. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Retribution is not something that I think people are interested or will ever be interested in. So that's just one of the many other issues that are going on within WWE that are causing people to tune out, in my opinion.
Right. Now, I definitely agree. But before we get to the actual predictions themselves, I do want to remind everybody, first off, thank you very much for joining us so far here on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. If you're new to the channel, my name is Michael Valenti. That's Ralph Valenti. If you want, we're going to do questions at the end of our predictions. We go in the order of the live chat. So all you do is put the hashtag question before your question, and then write your question. We'll answer it in the order of the live chat. But if you want to cut the line, you donate to the super chat party. Just click on the $ sign at the bottom of the live chat. Any dollar amount get you in front of that line. And we also have some merchandise. You see the Squared Circle Psycho Babble logos behind me, but we also have some new merchandise that you can see in the merchandise shelf underneath this video. And in the link in the description, you get 10% off with the promo code SCPB10. So, Ralph, shall we get down to it?
Yeah,
The predictions for WWE TLC 2020. And we'll start with the only non-title match of the evening, and that is the Fiend Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton in the Firefly Inferno match. I'm not exactly sure how this match is going to get approached, Ralph, because is this going to be like what we've seen in years prior, like with The Undertaker and Kane? Or is this going to be something like a cinematic match? I don't know. And that might determine how I predict this match.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that it has that little firefly bit added to the end of the title of the match kind of might lead me to believe that this could be a cinematic match and not so much, you know, what you were talking about where we saw Kane and Undertaker in an actual Inferno match. So we've seen that from The Fiend before. I think that could be the direction they go with this. Honestly, this is probably one of the matches I'm looking forward to least, only because, you know, I think the build for it has been okay, but I think The Fiend is really for a specific set of the fan base. And obviously everybody's been talking about how WWE has blundered him since Hell in a Cell last year, the match with Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And the loss to Goldberg, which obviously is something that doesn't sit right with a lot of people.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be interesting because you also have the dynamic of Alexa Bliss. And if I'm not mistaken, she was not on Raw this past Monday. So if that's the case, how does she get involved in this match? Does she help Bray Wyatt? Does she hurt Bray Wyatt? That's some other things here. And I think her involvement in this storyline has actually been one of the highlights for this storyline personally. I think she's been really good in this new, I guess, Sister Abigail role. Does she fully go full on Sister Abigail? I don't know. I think that's what's going to make this match very interesting if it goes that cinematic route.
Yeah, I got to think that she will get involved one way or another. The hardest part about this match is trying to determine what direction they're going to go with it, because like we talked about, The Fiend, he came back. Everybody was excited for him. He had that bad, well, I don't know if you want to call it a bad match. Certainly wasn't a good match with Seth last year.
Yeah.
All that debacle with him losing to Goldberg. So he's kind of like damaged. He's been rebuilding himself back up. Him and Alexa have been very good together. Now Orton is coming off one of his better feuds in the last couple of years, I would say. Him and Drew did some really good stuff together. Their matches were really good. And before that, he was really good with Edge. So, you know, Orton has been in a good spot. They're starting to build the Fiend back up. It's kind of like one of them is certainly going to lose their momentum. I think that the direction they're going to go with this is the Fiend has to win here. Orton, he's been there for so long. He's already established. I think he could afford to lose here and not really lose all that much. He can build himself back up pretty easily. So I'm taking the Fiend in this.
I actually will disagree with you here. I actually think Randy Orton is going to win because I think they need to change the character up a little bit with Bray Wyatt. And this is a great way to write him off so he can find that next level of the Fiend that has gone stale since, like you said, with Goldberg losing, with Seth Rollins and that whole debacle at Hell in a Cell. The Firefly version of Bray Wyatt is still there, but the Fiend, I think, needs to change something up. Mm-hmm. And if it's where this is a cinematic match, I think what ends up happening is Orton burns down the Firefly Funhouse with the Fiend in it, and somehow it's this weird hybrid of the two, not necessarily a Jekyll and Hyde where you only see one or the other. They might make it so that they turn the character into some kind of hybrid of the two. Not exactly sure how they're going to execute it, but I think that's the route they could go with this. So I'm going with Randy Orton winning this first match.
All right, so first match, we're already disagreeing.
And I think this is going to be a trend for later on tonight, but let's go to the next match here. It is for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler going up against Asuka and a partner to be determined. Obviously, it's supposed to be Lana in this spot. On the go-home show, Lana gets taken out. I've heard that she will be out for 3 to 4 weeks, I believe was the report on her leg injury. Don't know if that's kayfabe or legit. If it's kayfabe, I definitely could see her coming in as a surprise mid-match and getting the win for Asuka and her. If not, if this is a legit injury, I think Charlotte Flair is going to be the one that becomes Asuka's partner.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's a blessing and a curse when they do this, because people get excited to see who gets revealed, and if it's anybody other than, you know, the big surprise, then people get let down. Obviously, a lot of people are throwing names out there all over Twitter, all over social media. Eva Marie is one of those individuals. So I'm gonna hope. Well, I don't know if hope is the right word. I'm gonna say that I think Eva Marie will make her appearance tonight, because I from what everybody has been saying, she should have made her re-debut for the past 3 months now. And if she truly is signed with WWE, this would be a good time to bring her in. A more practical partner, I mean, Rhea Ripley's been being talked about being brought up from NXT for a long time now. She just lost again on NXT. So, you know, do they bring her up to the main roster? Certainly now with Raw having the record low ratings and all of that stuff, it might not be a bad idea.
Maybe
to bring somebody up just for that extra attention, especially considering, you know, she does have the history with Charlotte Flair, and you got to think that they're going to try to build her back up, and she's very good. So those would be my 2 picks as far as the mystery partner. I'm going to say Eva Marie or maybe Rhea Ripley.
I see someone in the chat saying Becky Lynch as a possibility. I don't think you know how pregnancy works. I think that'd be way too fast for her to be coming back. So it's definitely not Becky Lynch. But
what's it been, 3 weeks, if that?
Not even. It takes like
happening.
It takes like 2 months, if not more, for a woman to recuperate from a pregnancy. So probably not going to happen with Becky Lynch tonight. I know a name that's been buzzed around is Peyton Royce, and this is just one of those head-scratching things where, why did the Iconics get split if they're just going to get put in tag teams anyway? If she's the mystery partner and wins the tag titles tonight, this is the stuff that WWE is getting crapped on for, like, making absolutely no sense and why people are leaving.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and you know, the Iconics, even if we want to say they were limited in the ring, and I actually think Peyton Royce is pretty good in the ring. Billie Kay, you know, maybe not so much, but either way. So they were really good together. So to your point, if they're just going to put Peyton Royce back in another tag team with Asuka, which wouldn't even necessarily make any sense to most fans, you know, why do it? Why split them up just to put her in another tag team? So yeah, I don't know. I would hope that it's not that, because again, that would just get more backlash from the fans. More fans would be disappointed.
Yeah. I see it also in the chat here. One of our big followers, Mario Morales, he is hinting at Tessa Blanchard. Could it be Tessa making her WWE debut? We haven't heard any reports of her signing. She's been under the radar yet again after making a slight appearance in the world on Instagram back in the summer. Could it be Tessa in a debut?
I don't think so. I really don't. I don't see that. I mean, could it be? I mean, theoretically, yeah, it could be. I just don't see it happening.
All right. So I believe we both have Asuka and whoever the partner is, correct?
Yes.
All right. So, all right. Before we head on, for those that are just joining us again, thank you for joining us here on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. We are collecting questions to answer at the end of our predictions here. All you got to do is hit the question or use hashtag question before your question in the chat. And if you want to cut the line, any point of the show, you could donate to the Super Chat Party. We'll answer it immediately, give you a shout out. And if you notice on the lower third here, you'll see special thanks to. On our next live stream, your name's going to appear on there. So a little extra way of us saying thank you for that. So let's move on to the next match here. The New Day versus the Hurt Business, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Now, this match here and this whole storyline, is an example of what is wrong with WWE as far as Raw is concerned. Because an example of good storytelling, or at least I think of good storytelling, uses a style that's called the but therefore style. And this is done by, believe it or not, of all people, Trey Parker and Matt Stone of South Park. And basically what it is you take all the points in your story and put but or therefore in between them, and that would make a good story. This here has just been and then storytelling. So it's they had a match, and then they had another match, and then they had another match, and then they had another match. So it's been a very boring story. The matches have been good, but the story is just, let's just have a bunch of matches leading up to the match that we're going to see at TLC, including 3 tag team championship matches.
So no emotion, no storytelling, no investment. No, it's not. It's really easy to see why when WWE takes this approach on certain things, and it's not just this match, certainly not this match, it just doesn't make sense. You know, Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler as a tag team alone on SmackDown, them going after the tag titles, like, why? Like, why should anybody care? We know they're just a tag team that's been thrown together, and Dolph Ziggler has hardly been put in a position for anybody to care about. So,
right.
You know, that's just 2 examples right then and there. So, and there's many more when it comes to the main roster.
There really is. And before we head on to the continuation of this, I do want to say Tyler Mask, big, we talked to him a lot on Twitter. Big supporter of this channel, has his own New Japan Pro Wrestling channel. I know he's kind of had flux with it. He just donated $5 to the Super Chat party. He said, "What's going on? I know I'm skipping ahead, but I legit don't care about anything else WWE does. Who do you guys got winning the Rumble?" All right, so it all depends, Tyler. It all depends on where they go with this, and if the plans are for the matches that are going to be happening with the triple threat, Drew, Keith Lee, and Brock, Roman and Goldberg. I could totally see Goldberg being a surprise entrant and winning the Rumble just to set up Roman and Goldberg.
that would be, but that just speaks to WWE's inability to get a sense or a pulse on what their fans want to see. Goldberg, he was a huge star during the Attitude Era for WCW. Nobody's taken anything away from him. His return was great. Him becoming champion, they booked it fine. Him going over Lesnar was a really big deal. But they screwed up after that point, and they turned the fans again. This is what WWE has done time and time again. They know how to put people in wrong positions so the fans turn against them. So when you have a situation like Goldberg, it doesn't look very good for him, especially if he wins the Rumble.
Yeah, I totally agree there. So if it's not Goldberg or something like that, I could see something along the lines of maybe Keith Lee. I know Keith Lee, I think, is rumored to be the favorite to win it. I might be tipping my hand on later on in the show, but if Drew drops the title, I totally could see him winning the Rumble to go after Roman.
Yeah. I think at the top of my list, I certainly would have Keith Lee. I think it also, there's so many things that kind of this depends on, but are they going to be able to have fans at WrestleMania? Who's going to be champion at that time? Who's hot around that time? Because we know right around Royal Rumble, WrestleMania time, there's always one guy that gets hot. Right now, if I were to predict, I think Big E might end up being that guy that gets hot right around this time, just like Kofi Kingston, just like Daniel Bryan got hot.
Okay.
So, if I were to make a really short list, Keith Lee, if fans are able to come back, I would certainly put Lesnar back there. I don't think they're going to rush him back. And that's also assuming they can re-sign him, because from what we know, he's still a free agent. So Lesnar, Keith Lee, maybe Edge.
That's if Edge comes back. I believe his tricep injury rehab has not been doing so well, so he might not even be in the Rumble itself.
That sucks.
Yeah. And even if then, I think he has to go after Orton. So if he wins the Rumble, that means you got to get a title on Orton. And Why would they have Edge win the Rumble, go after Orton with no title? Like,
yeah, and again, it comes down to, how do they want to tell the story? I think, yeah, of course, Edge and Orton have unfinished business, but there's no saying they don't have to finish that business inside the ring at the Royal Rumble. Like, they could literally be one of the last couple of entrants together, and Edge could eliminate Orton. That could be him getting his revenge, and then Edge could move on to another feud. Now, that's just one way out of it. It doesn't, and there's so many different things that they can do, but there's so many things that are dependent upon it. I think the biggest thing that they have to figure out is if they're going to have fans back, because I think that's going to be a big driving force on who they decide to have win the Royal Rumble. Because if you look at Drew McIntyre, yeah, he won in front of all those fans. But unfortunately for him, his championship run, or his couple of championship runs at this point, they've been good, but it's unfortunate because there's been no fans to really get behind him in this whole thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's also the big thing. Like, if there's fans going to be there in the Thunderdome, which I think logistically they can do it, especially because they're at a baseball field, they can have people spread out. They can have, basically what AEW's been doing at Daly's Place times 5 or 10 because of the building that it's in. I know they're being a little bit safer in that regard than maybe NXT or AEW, but it's the Royal Rumble. It's hard to have this without fans. You can't fake the countdown. And I know Kevin Dunn will do that if there's no fans. And it's going to sound so corny and cheesy and just add to the making fans look stupid and insult their intelligence by having these fake 10, 9, 8, 7, Maybe they used the clip from when Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins had their Iron Man match and everybody just kept counting down on the clock. Use that clip just to really throw it at the fans again. Yep. But back at the match at hand, though, it is Hurt Business versus the New Day for the Raw Tag Team Champions. I am gonna go with the Hurt Business here, Ralph. I think the Hurt Business definitely needs to win this. I think a win here will really help the faction. I think the faction has been pretty good for the most part of 2020, but the momentum kind of died out recently, and I think a win here for the tag team titles with Lashley as the U.S. champion, you kind of have that sense of maybe what Undisputed Era did in NXT, where the faction wins all the gold, although I don't see MVP ever winning the WWE championship, but maybe they could do something where Lashley hands the title to MVP, and then, Lashley goes after the WWE championship, however that works. But I think Hurt Business need to win tonight.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the Hurt Business as well. I think they've been a really pleasant surprise in this abysmal year that 2020 has been. I think that MVP certainly has surprised a lot of people. He was somebody that I think at the time when he was in the WWE, probably underappreciated for his skills, but that's probably because they had so much top tier talent then. And I think a guy like him, especially right now when Raw, let's be honest, isn't very good, his abilities and his talent really stands out a lot more. So I think it's only fair for them to award those guys who have done a really good job with the title win. I'm going to go with the Hurt Business.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I said this a while back, but who would have thought if I told you at the start of 2020 that MVP would come back to WWE and be one of the highlights of the year, you probably would have laughed at me early on in 2020. First off, because why the hell would MVP even come back? But then he shows up at the Rumble and has a pretty good 2020 with the Hurt Business. Very good. And makes Bobby Lashley freaking relevant, makes Shelton Benjamin relevant, and makes Cedric Alexander relevant. So really, really done a good job. Definitely a much better run this time than his first run in WWE. But all right, the matches that I think most people are excited for tonight, we're finally going to get to. And before we do, just want to remind everybody, thank you very much for joining us so far on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. If you want to donate to the Super Chat Party and let us answer any questions that you have, you could do so. Just click the $ at the bottom of the live chat, submit your question, and we'll answer it just like Tyler Mask did a while back. Your name will be at the bottom here. As you see, it's scrolling on the lower third as a part of another special thank you. Also, merchandise is available, 10% off with the link in the description and the promo code SCPB10. Not only do we have the logo t-shirts that we have here behind me, but brand new merchandise, ratings 1849, and watch wrestling every day. very cool looking shirts, at least I think, but I'm biased because I designed the freaking things. But you can check those out by checking the link in the description or the store underneath the video. But now let's head on to the Women's Championship of SmackDown, Sasha Banks versus Carmella. And this has been a surprise story. When you really think Carmella and Sasha Banks, I don't think a lot of people would say they're interested in it, but I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I would say I'm interested in it too. There's 3 things that I really have been watching SmackDown for as of late. Bianca Belair, seeing what they do with her, the match with her and Bayley this past week. Anything to do with Roman, right now he's feuding with Kevin Owens, and Sasha and Carmella. I really have enjoyed their storyline. I think Carmella is really coming into her own. She was somebody who, when she won the women's championship, I think a lot of people felt like, she did. I don't know if not deserving the title is the right way to phrase it, but there were other people that the fans wanted to see hold that title, not so much her. I think since she's comes back, she's been great, and I think that the brief match that her and Sasha already had on SmackDown was good, and I think this match tonight is going to be very good as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Do you think with the way this whole story has gone, which has been very good for the most part, but that one little thing with the contract signing leading to the match anyway, kind of odd, but the match ending in a no DQ, was that kind of a weird thing in the story for you? Because it seems a little odd to me.
Because you gave away your pay-per-view match, or
kinda?
Yeah,
kinda.
I mean, I think it was okay because they kind of found a way out of it. Like, it ended in a DQ, so you didn't necessarily get a definitive answer. And now this whole feud is kind of being driven by Sasha getting revenge, right? Because from what we've seen, Carmella's gotten the best of her every time they have some type of interaction the past couple of weeks, at least. So now this is where hopefully, I mean, we'll see how the match outcome ends up playing out, but so it didn't necessarily take me out of it. No.
Okay. Well, I mean, it didn't take me out of it, but I just found it kind of odd. Like, they had the contract signing and then just announced the match was on the same show. It was like they did the contract signing just to do a contract signing, and then it didn't really lead to what it really needed to lead to. So it was a little odd in my take. They need to get rid of contract signings in wrestling altogether, but that's a different conversation. But I think this match could surprise people. I think a lot of people are a little bit, they don't really see Carmella as a great wrestler. And let me tell you, she's come a long way in the ring. And I think this match could surprise people. Sasha Banks, we all know how good she is. And not only in the wrestling ring, but apparently she did an amazing tornado DDT at the end of Star Wars Mandalorian that I need to check out. But she's been creating buzz, not just in wrestling, but in the Star Wars community. I think she needs the win to carry on to that, but knowing WWE, I think Carmella pulls it off here and gets the upset and beats Sasha for the SmackDown Women's title.
Yeah. And you know what? Carmella even touched on that. She said that's been the story of Sasha's career. She does not have long title reigns for whatever reason. And I think that they're going to play into that here. And I think that's why she called it out in her promo. I think Carmella's going to win here. And, I know a lot of people are critical of Carmella in the ring, and she's been working hard to get better. Like I said, we'll see tonight. Hopefully the brief match she had with Sasha wasn't a fluke, if you want to call it that. But Carmella looked damn good in the ring. And I think she's going to look good again tonight. And I'm excited I really am actually truly excited for this match, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I do think it's going to be a good match. Carmella plays the heel role so well, and you know what? She is actually a really good promo. So
agree.
I think that they're going to put the belt on her. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it, but I think with everything going on with Star Wars, and they really need to give Sasha a good title run, while I could definitely see Carmella winning this, and I think there's a couple matches that we need to differ on for me to actually win this thing. I'm going to go with Sasha Banks to win this match. All right. So you're going with Carmella. I'm going with Sasha. Now, let's head to the WWE Championship match. It is one of 2 TLC matches for the evening. Drew McIntyre versus AJ Styles. Now, this match here, there's so many moving pieces that I don't think it's that easy to predict. You have Omos, you have Miz and Morrison, you have Sheamus, or they just flat out just have a basic TLC match without any of those guys getting involved, but I really don't see that happening. I think we have these rumors of what the WrestleMania main event is going to be, and if those just joining us, we talked about it a little bit, but the rumor is Drew, Keith Lee, Brock Lesnar in a triple threat, Roman and Goldberg, or The Rock. I don't think any of those are happening. I think they planted the seed at Survivor Series for Drew and Roman, and you got to get the belt off one of them. And I see it being Drew. You could do so many cop-outs to get the belt off Drew tonight. Sheamus turns on him. The Miz cashes in. AJ has almost interfere. Or they do all of that just to really, really protect Drew McIntyre so he could win the Rumble and beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I honestly believe while this match is going to be good, there's going to be a lot of shenanigans in it.
All right, so I'm on board for Drew and Roman at WrestleMania. I'd be totally fine with that. I'd be okay with Drew dropping the title to AJ tonight. I have no issue with that. I think that the Miz and Morrison have been turned into such a comedy act right now where they are with their ratings issues and all of that type of stuff, and especially the fact that they do have AEW as competition now. Maybe you could get away with the Miz being your champion for a couple of months or however long back before you truly had some type of competition, like legitimate competition, not just like, okay, well, TNA Impact is on a whatever night it's on and they draw an X amount of people. I mean, like a legitimate company that has been getting attention, getting praise, now has Sting, is trying to get other people to sign to contract, big name guys. So legitimate competition. I cannot see the Miz taking the title and being the head guy at Monday Night Raw right now, especially considering the way.
Well, he doesn't need a long run though. You can make him a transitional champion until the Rumble.
Here's a problem. And I like the Miz and he works his ass off. And I know you're a big fan of his and you're going to try to, try to say that he could make a good champion. The fans don't want to see him as champion. He's a goof. No,
I understand.
Miz and Morrison are two goofs. They go out every single week and make a fool of themselves. This past week was no exception. The Miz right now in 2020 going into 2021 cannot be your main guy on Monday Night Raw where the ratings currently are. It's not going to work. He's not championship material.
No, but
right now he is not.
No, but you can definitely have him be a transitional champion between now and Royal Rumble. If he cashes in midway through the match and sneaks in while AJ and Drew are both knocked down and piled onto whatever garbage that they have on them, he sneaks in and wins. You piss off AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre, maybe even have a triple threat match at Royal Rumble. AJ gets the title, and then Drew goes after Roman with the Royal Rumble match win.
Okay, so you're saying AJ leaves tonight with the belt?
No. I'm saying Miz leaves with the belt.
Okay.
And then that would be a transitional reign for AJ at Royal Rumble to be the champion coming out of Royal Rumble. He does his thing with whoever's going to be his opponent at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. Drew wins the Rumble, goes after Roman. The Miz goes back into the mid-card as a comedy act with with Morrison.
Okay, so you remember a couple years ago when Miz cut that great promo on John Cena?
Yes.
And do you remember when Miz was actually pretty hot going into WrestleMania with his feud with Cena? That would have been, for me, the time to really solidify him. And they really haven't done so.
I agree.
And right now, I just can't get on board with it. Seeing where the company currently is, you say, okay, well, you piss off AJ. But the people that get pissed off more than anything, if the Miz wins tonight and goes into Raw tomorrow with the championship, is the fans. People aren't going to want to see him as champion. And
but isn't that a good reason? Isn't that a good reason to have him be champion, even if it's a short term? Because you got to have some kind of villain, some kind of guy that just will take that heat and just he's a great promo. He could be such a cocky jackass with that title that people will just love to hate him. And that's kind of what they need right now. They need someone to be a character with that title, even if it's just a short term.
And I apologize to anybody, but the IWC is unrelentless and unforgiving, and they are not going to watch. They're not going to watch. They're not watching Raw and SmackDown as much as they were a couple of years ago. They are not going to watch Raw to see Miz as champion, even if it means him getting his ass kicked by Drew or by AJ a couple months down the road as a transitional champion. People are not going to tune in for that. They're just not. The Miz and Morrison together are just two of the biggest goofs in all of wrestling.
I agree.
like the Miz by himself. I think he's a great promo. I think he's okay in the ring. I think that he's underappreciated, especially considering that he came from reality TV and people don't give him credit where credit is due. But I just cannot see fans right now, especially where we are in 2020 and just all the issues that Raw has had. If you put the belt on Miz, I do not see how that helps Monday Night Raw in the slightest. I just don't see it. I don't see him leaving tonight with the championship. I don't see him being a champion anytime soon.
Do you think Sheamus gets involved?
I think that he probably will, and if he does, I think that was how they're going to get the title off of Drew, because if Drew's going to drop the title, he needs a storyline leading into Royal Rumble, assuming he's going to go in and win that to go on to face Roman. So they've already been kind of building up the tension between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe.
So the other way you could do this, if Drew does manage to retain the WWE Championship tonight, you can have Sheamus turn on him, leading to a feud at Royal Rumble. You already have Keith Lee and Sheamus kind of having this little backstage intervention here. That leads to their feud after Royal Rumble. Maybe Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre, that's how they get into the Brock Lesnar triple threat that's rumored. That's the other way you could do that too. But I think there's just way too many spinning plates for Drew McIntyre to not walk out, or to walk out of TLC as the WWE champion. Like you either have you have Miz and Morrison, you have Sheamus.
Yeah.
I don't really see him overcoming all those odds, honestly. And I think this show needs some big ass surprise that no one's expecting. And I think this is it.
So you're going to say what? Miz is winning tonight?
I am going to say, if not the Miz cashing in, AJ is going to walk out WWE champion. Okay. Drew McIntyre will not walk out as WWE champion.
Okay. I was fully convinced. I was fully ready to come onto the show today and actually say that Drew was going to win, but I think you've talked me out of it. I think I'm going to go with AJ, and here's the reason why. If Drew is going to drop the title at any point and go on to win the Royal Rumble and main event WrestleMania against Roman, who can you realistically put the title on where it's going to be meaningful? Now, The Miz, we just talked about that. I don't see it. AJ is the only guy on Raw right now that I could see that could take the title off of Drew, other than Orton, and they just feuded together. So I think AJ leaves tonight with the title. I think that's where they're going to go with this.
So you're saying it's either going to be Sheamus or Omos that causes Drew McIntyre the title?
Yeah, one way or another, I think AJ leaves with the title tonight, because I just don't see anybody else who can realistically take the title off of him that people would still be interested in on Monday night. Which Monday is going to be a big Raw only because, one, it's coming off a pay-per-view, and two, the ratings last week were terrible. If that happens again, especially coming out of a pay-per-view, that's not going to be good.
Right. And I know, like, it seems like every time we get this big report of, oh my God, they've had record low viewership, record low ratings, Vince McMahon has to come out and tell people, we're going to shake things up, or we're going to give you what you want. But honestly, it seems like December is just a really bad month for their ratings. They always have bad ratings in December. I don't know if it's the holidays or if, the games on Monday nights for the NFL are just really, really good. I know this past Monday might have been the greatest game of the season. I think that was a fact to it. The vaccine coming, I think that really played a lot into this, but still the storylines haven't been that good. So I'm not going to say it's entirely external reasons. There's definitely been some internal reasons, but like the push for Royal Rumble starting. So we got to get those ducks in a row. And I think tonight something big's got to happen to get people to get into the Royal Rumble run leading into the road to WrestleMania. I think Drew getting the title off of him is really that big thing. So, but something crazier may happen tonight, Ralph. And that is if somehow, some way, Kevin Owens can beat Roman Reigns in a TLC match to win the Universal Championship. This has been one of the best storylines WWE has put together in at least the last 2 years. I'm gonna say it. It has been one of the best storylines in the last 2 years. I could confidently say that. Kevin Owens has been looking like $1 million. Roman Reigns, since he's come back, has been nothing but money. The involvement with Paul Heyman and Jey Uso has been really, really good. Whether you just watch SmackDown or you even watch Talking Smack, there's been such good shit, to quote Vince McMahon on this. It's been great. This match is going to be the match of the night. I can't imagine what they're going to do with Kevin Owens for him to basically die in the ring. Like Joey Janela always talks about how he wants to die in the ring. Kevin Owens might actually do it tonight.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a really good match. I think that this has been one of the better feuds that we've seen in the past couple of years. I think that Roman wins this, and the reason I think that is because he's been so good. He's been their most consistent guy. He's been what everybody's been talking about in the WWE. I mean, even as bad as WWE has gotten to a certain extent, a lot of people are paying attention to WWE because of Roman or because of Drew, but mostly because of how good Roman's been doing in this storyline. So I can't see them taking the title off of him, but I do think this is going to be a really, really good match. Definitely a match I'm looking forward to. I'm going to take Roman in this though.
You are going to take Roman. Now, Jey Uso's going to get involved in this match. He is. How? Yeah. Does he try to help Roman and then fail and then create that drift between him and Roman? Does he help like he did at Survivor Series? Does he just kind of lay back and just let him do his thing? Like, I think Jey Uso could be the piece that if somehow Kevin Owens wins, he tries something, it doesn't work, Roman gets pissed at him, focuses on him, and Kevin Owens ends up sneaking in the win.
What about Jimmy?
Jimmy's another guy. I know we don't talk about Jimmy because he's been hurt, but I'm pretty sure he's on his way back. Like, he could appear tonight, and maybe Jey tries to do something. Jimmy holds him back. Roman tries to split them apart, and Kevin Owens does something. I don't know. But if the whole Drew thing doesn't happen, like I say, something could happen here with Roman. And like, that's what great storytelling is, where before you make it, oh, it's definitely going to happen this way. I could totally see it happening this way. But they've done a good job at making it seem like, well, Jimmy could F things up here. Jimmy could F things up. Paul Heyman. Obviously, we know their history with Brock Lesnar. If Brock Lesnar is coming back, could Heyman turn on Roman and start maybe a feud we don't know about and reigniting Brock versus Roman again?
I don't see that, because then that would also assume you'd have to that would mean, unless you did like a heel versus heel thing, that would mean Brock would be the heel. Now you're turning Roman back to face.
Or you can make Roman the face, you can make Brock the face. Either way. I mean, that could be one way of doing it. You could have Jey Uso turn face, cause him the match. Like, there's a lot of things you could do here, but it was good. This story's been good. This story has been really, really good, I think. So with that said, I think the big surprise happens with the WWE Championship, not the Universal Championship. So I do say Roman Reigns wins. Kevin Owens, I don't know. I really don't know how they're going to do it, but he's going to have to do some great martyr work to really pull this off. And I think he can. The guy freaking jumped off the WrestleMania sign earlier this year. He's going to do something to really get people, as much as I hate the chant, but chant, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit.
And they'll probably pump it through the Thunderdome there too.
Exactly, because why have, the audio from the fans watching come through, or have real fans there, whatever the case may be. But Kevin Dunn and his got to make it sound super, super produced. That's what happens. But I think this match is going to be awesome. I think either this or Carmella and Sasha steal when it's the main event, it should be the best match, but Sasha and Carmella could steal the night as well.
Between any of those matches, Sasha and Carmella, Drew and AJ, and Kevin Owens and Roman. I think any three of those. I think all three of them will be good, but any three of those can steal the show, I think.
I totally agree. Totally agree. But all right, it is now questions time, folks. We are going to go in the order that they have submitted in the live chat. All you got to do is hit type question before your question in the live chat. It makes it easier for me to see it. And also, you could cut the line by donating to the super chat party. Any dollar amount, you cut the line. You could do $1, $5, $10. You can also support the channel by buying one of our beautiful Squared Circle Psychobabble t-shirts. We have the logo merchandise behind me. We also have Ratings 1849 and Watch Wrestling Every Day. Click the link in the description for the 10% off promo code SCPB10. So let's get the questions going, Ralph. Again, in the order that they come in the live chat, Malik Murray will start us off here. Keith Lee should not go to the PC. The man held both the NXT title and North American Championship, and he should be pushed better. Triple H created. Vince McMahon killed the NXT talent. So basically, I think his question is, although it's not a question, is why is Keith Lee going to the PC? We've already discussed this. Malik, but in case you missed that episode, they want him to get into the best position possible because Vince sees a main eventer in Keith Lee. It's not because Vince thinks he sucks. There's definitely potential there. They just want to tweak a couple things. And let's not forget, folks, the WWE doesn't have house shows. They don't have AEW Dark. So really the only way to get a little extra ring time other than when they're on TV is to go to the PC. So it's not that big a deal, folks.
No, it's definitely not. And especially when you consider we don't really know why he's being sent there. From what we know, the reports say he's going there to really work on some of his skills. Now that doesn't necessarily mean he's trying to make him reinvent himself in the ring or anything like that. But I mean, Bubba Ray Dudley, I sent you this link the other day, Michael. So he said the same thing about Drew McIntyre, right? Drew McIntyre's Vince McMahon saw something in Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre didn't necessarily live up to the expectation. They told him, oh, okay, leave WWE, come back when you're ready, and look where he is now. There's nothing wrong with wanting somebody to reach their full potential. Vince is his boss. Vince wants something very specific out of him, and he sees a certain amount of talent there. So him sending him to the PC to get better at what he currently is doing right now, that's not a bad thing. He just expects a lot of good things out of him. So yep. I don't know why people are being so negative on this whole thing right now. Now, of course, if it's a year from now, Keith Lee is not on Raw, he's jobbing out to everybody, maybe we could say, okay, well, maybe they dropped the ball with another really good talent, but, you know, I don't see the issue with it.
I don't either, but, you know, it's WWE. Sometimes, rightfully so, people crap on them, but I think sometimes people just like to hate because it seems like it's the cool thing to do. And I think this is one of those cases where we see the headline going back to the PC and then we panic. Let things happen, folks. Let things happen. Just because of this little headline that we don't even know it's necessarily true, which Otis, I think, even went on because he was part of this story. He went on an interview, I believe it was with Fightful, and he was like, I don't really understand where it came from because we're always in the PC center trying to improve ourselves because we don't have house shows.
Yeah, and not only that, but who trains? So who do you got training at the PC? So I would imagine Triple H is involved, right? Shawn Michaels, I think, is there.
Yep. I think the report is
Adam Pearce is helping these guys.
Right. Adam Pearce and Drew Gulak are the ones that are rumored to be a part of this. But, you know, they have, I believe, Road Dogs down there. They have, you know, they'll have special guest trainers. I know The Undertaker was there a while back.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not.
So he's going to learn from some of the. I mean, assuming, let's say The Undertaker's there, he gets training from The Undertaker, he gets training from Triple H, Shawn Michaels, all the guys we talked about. How is that a bad thing? You're getting trained by some of the best guys to ever do it.
Exactly. Now, granted, he did have time at NXT to train and maybe should have been there already, but for whatever reason, he's not. So, but I do want to give a shout out to, and I hope I pronounce this right, Siege Luigi. If I pronounce that wrong, I apologize. he just gave us $10 to the Super Chat party just cause and wanted to wish us happy holidays. Thank you very much. I know we see him a lot in the comment section, so thank you very much for the support. Thank you very much for your donation to the Super Chat party. And if you want to donate to the Super Chat party, we'll give you a shout out. We'll answer your question in front of everybody else as we're answering these in the order they come into the live chat. And I think we only got through the first question. So let's keep this going. And of course, use the hashtag question. It makes it a little easier for me to find the question once, I'm going through these. So next question here. Should AJ Styles win, which we already went through that. I think we both say it could happen tonight, and be the face of Raw?
Should he? I mean,
he's definitely one of them. He's definitely one of them now. He might be the top heel right now. Obviously going for the WWE Championship. He's definitely a better heel than he is a babyface, personally, in my opinion. So the face of and that's the other thing we got to get out of. We got to get out of this stigma of the face of WWE, the face of Raw, the face of SmackDown. Because that honestly is one of the reasons why the ratings have gone down, especially on Raw, because it's the face. We got to really push this one guy or one girl.
Right.
Let's build like 3 or 4. And if the top one's out, we still have 2 or 3 ready to go. You build Drew, you build Sheamus, you build Keith Lee, you build AJ, you build The Miz. So when, let's say if, God forbid, Drew gets hurt, there's a next in line. If Roman, God forbid, leaves again, you have someone in line. That's what they need to start doing. That's why the Attitude Era was so good, because Austin left, you had The Rock. The Rock left, you had Triple H. Triple H was gone, you had The Undertaker. You had The Undertaker gone for a little bit. Freaking Rikishi was in the main event picture for a while because they just built guys in the mid card and then worked their way up. Now it's just you're either in the main event or you're buried. And that's the IWC's fault, because one freaking loss means you're buried. And I'm not going through that rant because of, Shinsuke Nakamura lost to Otis. He's not buried because he lost to Otis. Sorry, guys. Oh, that's it? No rebuttal? Okay, next question then.
There's a lot of questions here, and we're trying to. Okay. I agree with everything you said. So
okay, let's see. Next question here. Wow, kind of hard when you go. Oh, here we go. I keep hearing rumors that The Rock is coming back to put Roman over at Mania. Do you think it could happen? Would they give him a Rumble win to lead up to it? I think it all depends on whether or not there's fans at WrestleMania. If there's fans, I could see it. I would like him to win the Rumble because I think the Rumble has kind of lost its prestige a little bit. I know Drew won it last year, won the WWE Championship, but a couple years prior, they would win the Royal Rumble but not main event, or they would lose their match anyway. So I think I know it's The Rock and it's not a new star, but I think this is the exception, not the rule in this case.
Yeah, I'm going to say it largely depends on if and how many fans they can have in attendance. You're not just going to have the biggest box office draw like The Rock make his return to an empty arena just to main event to put some guy over. Doesn't make sense. Vince McMahon knows that from the business side of things. I don't think he needs to win the Royal Rumble to get into that feud, so I don't want him or think he should win the Royal Rumble. But I'm all for a feud with Roman and The Rock. And I think it largely depends on if they can have fans there.
Yeah, and I think, it all depends on how the vaccine works, how, WWE might be like, hey, it's freaking April. We need fans. Obviously, they're probably going to be out of Tropicana Field because the Tampa Bay Rays are going to have to play some games there. So they can't use the Thunderdome anymore in the actual original Thunderdome. But yeah, I hope there's some kind of fans at WrestleMania. Depending on where they end up going, I would not be surprised, depending on where they go, if there ends up being pretty close to full capacity. But we'll see. Only time will tell. But next question. Have you guys heard of NXT receiving their own minor league system with the owner of Evolve leading the team? I'm curious as to what you guys think of it. So, Ralph, I'll let you start.
I have heard this. I love it because the guy that they're talking about, Gabe, I always pronounce his last name Sapolsky. Sapolsky, I believe he was heavily involved in, was it Evolve Wrestling? Well,
Yeah.
he's been on the independent scene for a really, really long time. So I have no problem with this. I think that will only increase the odds that people can go on to the main card and be successful, because they'll start to learn the way that, a specific style or a specific structure that is expected when they get to different levels within the company. So I think this is a good thing.
I agree. I know a lot of people, when the news broke that WWE bought Evolve, that they're like, oh, they're trying to buy out all the independents. But this is actually a good thing, because Evolve was having tough times with the pandemic. Now Gabe Sapolsky can run Evolve without having to be the owner and have all these extra things that he probably didn't want to deal with that WWE can do instead. And it gives them probably a much bigger audience than Evolve could have had, because now either they're going to go on the WWE network, or perhaps they go on some kind of cable network. Evolve would never have done that under Gabe, because it's an independent league. So,
and WWE was already working with Evolve before
exactly.
they bought them out. So
exactly. So
that's like, we went back to what we said before. It's just sometimes people will freak out just because it's WWE making moves and doing things.
Right. Okay. Here we go again. 5 pounds. I think we got it right. 5 pounds from Lee Jones. Thank you very much for your donation. If you were starting a promotion, who would be the first 5 people you hire? Money and contract status is no object. Can include JR types.
I guess he means like managers and announcers.
Okay.
And all that
I don't know why, but I was sitting at work last night and I had a feeling this question would come up. I don't know why. But
so who's your 5? You must have prepared. I didn't, so...
Okay, so I'm guessing we're using current wrestlers, active wrestlers. So I would start with the 5 people I would hire would all be my top guy would probably be Roman Reigns. I would probably hire to book Jim Cornette for talent scouting. I would do DDP. And the only reason I say DDP is I watched the Untold of the Streak on the WWE network, and I think he really has an eye for big stars. And I know there's a lot of them out there, but DDP, I think, has his finger on the pulse with today's wrestlers, and definitely had his finger on the pulse when he was the one that said Goldberg should be a guy that WCW grabs and make a big star. And he was really one of the big names involved in making Goldberg the big thing in WCW. So I would have him be the head of talent scouting. Top heel, Roman Reigns. Top face, Jon Moxley. Jim Cornette would be my booker. So that's 4. And if I had to pick one more person, I think my head trainer would be Lance Storm. Because if you see a lot of the big names in wrestling or the rising stars, Lance Storm has probably trained them. Brian Pillman Jr., Chelsea Green, I think are a couple that come to my head. Dominic Mysterio has been trained by Lance Storm. So those would be my 5. And I know they're not wrestlers or top 5 best whoever, but that's who I would go with.
All right. Now, I need somebody to run the business, and I think the person who's best at that right now with the most experience is Triple H. So I'm taking Triple H as the guy who's going to just run the business, be the head of whatever, make sure everything's aligned. I would normally pick Vince McMahon, but he's older. He's out of his... I would assume that most people would agree that he's out of his prime. If this were the Attitude Era, I'm taking Vince every day, all day. But I'm taking Triple H. Talent-wise, I'm going to go with Roman. God. I would probably take Cody, because I think that he has he's proven that he's certainly capable of a lot more than just the Stardust character that he was in WWE. So I'm going to take him. I'm torn between AJ and Drew right now. I would say
Drew has more years in him.
But AJ has done everything there is to do in wrestling, and I think Drew is just starting to get to his full potential. I'm going to take Drew. So I'm going to take Roman, Drew, Triple H. I'll take Paul Heyman because I want his mastermind just to bounce ideas off of guys and to work with the talent and all that type of stuff. And I have to take one more, right? So Roman, Drew, Cody, Paul, Triple H.
I think that's 5, isn't it?
Maybe. Triple H, AJ, Roman, Drew,
Heyman.
and Paul Heyman.
Yeah, that's 5.
Yeah.
Good question. Very good question. Thank you very much,
Lee
Jones.
Put me on the spot. That was difficult, but yeah, that's who I would go with.
Yeah. All right. Very awesome question there. And of course, if you guys want to cut the line, ask an awesome question like that one, donate to the Super Chat Party. We have a couple more questions, I think, left in the live chat. And again, we're going in the order that they come into the live chat. So here's the next question. Seeing that Bruce Pritchard is supposed to be the head of head of the entire creative team, why does SmackDown feel more must-see than Raw as far as storylines are concerned? That is an awesome question. Because I think the same thing. Everyone's like, oh, Vince is just out of touch. Vince is out of touch, or Bruce Pritchard needs to go. These two are the head of creative for both shows. So either they have two different teams, one's really good and one's really bad, or the people on SmackDown know how to deliver and the ones on Raw do not.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a big part of it. Kevin Owens, I mean, this went around for a little while, but supposedly Kevin Owens is one of the few guys that has a little creative freedom with his promos. I mean, he's very good in the ring. He's very good on the mic. It's easy to see why people are interested in the matchup between him and Roman. Roman has been very good and the hottest thing in professional wrestling. Well, I mean, you could also consider the Kenny Omega storyline. That's certainly a popular thing going on right now, but he's up there. Like, a lot of people are paying attention to that. A lot of young talent, I would say, that can do a lot of good things on SmackDown. Sasha Banks is there. Bianca Belair's up and coming. Bayley's there. To me, I just think that that's probably the biggest thing. I think the talent stands out more, and the talent is better at, taking advantage of the moments they're given. Where on Raw, you don't see that. So there's a couple of things that are okay on Raw. Like I said, I'm not all that bothered by Matt Riddle. I think that he can be actually a good character. I think that's why SmackDown's better, though.
Yeah. And I say this all the time. Like, so many guys are so worried about the 5-star match, but not worried about the 5-star story or the 5-star promo that leads you to that match. And I think, obviously, Roman has definitely honed that skill in the time he's been gone. And this whole tribal chief thing has been amazing. Kevin Owens is one of the best promos in WWE. In the women's division, you have Carmella, Sasha, and Bayley that are really good promos. Bianca Belair is a good promo. I don't care about your matches. I don't. You got to sell me on your damn match. Not just, oh, it's a dream match. I don't care. Sell me. Other than, oh, it's a dream match. It's going to be awesome.
I think phrasing it, you don't care about the match, isn't the right way to put it. You would rather be persuaded to care about the match.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's what I mean by that. I want a 5-star story before I want a 5-star match. And you can't get a 5-star match until you have a 5-star story leading into it. But next question here. Do you guys see AJ versus Keith Lee heading into WrestleMania? I think Keith Lee going down to the PC, tuning up, could set him for WrestleMania. Or does the Miz feud with Morrison heading into Mania?
Miz and Morrison feud, I could care less about that, to be honest. Keith Lee and AJ, I could be into that. That would be good.
Yeah, I think that would be good. And if you do what I'm saying, with AJ winning tonight and all these different spinning pieces or whatever, Keith Lee wins the Royal Rumble. There's Keith Lee versus AJ Styles for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. Do you think Brock Lesnar appears tonight just to hype up Raw because Vince is in panic mode?
No.
I disagree. I agree. I should say I agree. Won't happen. Next question. So once Roman squashes KO, he's not squashing KO. I mean, unless he's physically going to squash him, because that's how KO is going to die. Where does Roman go from there? Pretty much agree that the Rock's off the table for Mania. That's a good question, because obviously, if it's where it's Goldberg, say it's Goldberg for Mania, You got from TLC to Mania where Roman's got to do something because Goldberg's not going to be there. What do you do in those 3 or 4 months? That's going to be how SmackDown is tested with Roman. It's been easy so far because they've had guys like Jey Uso come in and deliver, Kevin Owens deliver, Drew McIntyre deliver. But do we start seeing like a guy like Big E come into the picture for the Universal Championship? Who else is really there in the mid card right now? Because a lot of the mid card for SmackDown went to Raw in the draft. So I don't know who could be there.
That is a tough question. Unless they continue this feud with Kevin Owens.
They could definitely do that. And I mean, you could have Kevin win and then Roman win it back at Rumble and 50-50 booking because WWE loves that.
What about Daniel Bryan? Where's he been?
Oh, that's right. Daniel Bryan. You could do that too. He was in the W. Yeah, that could be the way you go between now and Mania is use guys like Daniel Bryan. Why do you guys still watch WWE main roster shows? Because we watch all wrestling that is good. Like, yes, there's some bad, but there's some bad in AEW. There's some bad in New Japan Pro Wrestling. There's some bad in Impact. There's some bad in MLW. There's some bad everywhere. You know? Do I watch every single minute of WWE programming? No. Do I watch every minute of AEW programming? No. But to just blatantly say main roster WWE sucks, I'm sorry. That's a blanket statement, and I don't think you're really paying attention to what's going on. The stuff with Roman, the stuff with Sasha has been really, really good. I think if more people just watch SmackDown and a little less of Raw, I don't think they'd be bitching about WWE as much as they have been.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I watch, like I said, there's certain things at certain times throughout the shows, Raw and SmackDown, that do pique my interest. Roman Reigns is certainly one of them. The feud with him and Kevin Owens, Sasha Banks is another one. You know, something as simple as the intrigue tonight. Am I really into the whole Lana, Nia Jax storyline? Not really, but you know what? I'm intrigued to see who the surprise partner is tonight. So, you know, I know WWE does a lot of things wrong and it pisses a lot of people off, but every now and then they get something right. So it's enough to keep me at least intrigued sometimes.
Yeah.
And we also review it pretty much at least a couple of times a week. So we have to watch it. We have to know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So next question. This seems like a long shot, but CM Punk alluded to a potential return. He said Money and Creative has lined up. Could he and Roman feud into Mania?
If he comes back, I don't.
It gives him the Mania main event, and you said that when we talked about this last week.
Maybe, yeah. Honest to God, I really do feel like if he was to go anywhere, I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they want to see him in AEW. I think a return to WWE is more likely than anything else. I really do. I don't see him going to AEW.
Right. Do you see Carmella pull a trick and Billie Kay join Carmella and she helps Mella win the women's championship?
That also could be possible. Yeah.
I mean, one more thing to add to the resume. I helped Carmella win the SmackDown Women's Championship. If Hurt Business wins the tag titles, who do you see beating them? Or do they just split up like everyone else in WWE?
Who do I see beating them? They'll probably hot potato those belts right back to the New Day. I don't know.
There's no other tag teams that I could think of unless they start this. I know they're kind of hinting at the Hardy Bros with Matt Hardy and with Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle. So they could do that too. Why does AEW have people in the audience and other promotions don't? WWE has the Thunderdome, but ROH, MLW, Impact, they can't let 50 people be in there. Personally, I can't watch them because of that. It costs money to test everyone to go into the buildings. And quite honestly, Ring of Honor, MLW, and Impact probably don't want to spend the money to test everyone. And it's just safer that way. Like NXT does the Capitol Wrestling Center, and there's a report that someone tested positive there. So there's always that possible backlash, and that's probably why WWE doesn't do it in the Thunderdome. Do you think AEW has good storylines? Because I think they could be doing so much better.
Some of them, sure. Some of them, no. I would have to. I don't know. I would need somebody to ask like what specific storyline, like Kenny Omega storyline. I like that. I'm trying to think what else is going on. I think that the Sting storyline is okay. I think that it could do a little more with that one, but that's just my personal opinion.
Right. You know, they're like, I think everyone has their good storylines and their bad storylines, regardless of promotion. AEW, excuse me, Brian Last put it the best, honestly. It's a very entertaining 2 hours, but I think that's because AEW has like a monkey throwing shit at the wall in like every segment and seeing which sticks, and they just go with what sticks. So always keeping you guessing on what could happen, I think, is what makes AEW 2 hours fly by, whereas Raw's 3 hours are hard because some of the storylines are just bad. I think that's kind of where we're going here. Let's see. Next question here. Getting the call up, but from Vince, but why didn't he call Undisputed Era, Johnny Gargano, who are proven commodities in NXT, but why does Keith Lee has to get called up, or who has joined later get called up?
You answered your question. They're proven commodities in NXT. Mind you, they're also all very small. Keith Lee's a big dude.
Yeah.
So it's more believable when he's going in there against guys like Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, etc. If you put Adam Cole in there, and I love Adam Cole. I'm a huge Adam Cole fan, but let's be honest. If you put him in there against like a Drew McIntyre or Roman, just based on the physical appearance of it by itself, people will automatically tune out. There are some fans that will not watch a professional wrestling match if they can't buy that the guy in the match is, capable of beating up the other guy in like real life. That's why people sometimes are critical of like Orange Cassidy. They're critical of Daniel Bryan, guys of that size and stature. So that's why Keith Lee part of the reason why Keith Lee got called up, because he's a big dude. Like he can go in there and go against a guy like a Brock Lesnar and make it be believable.
Right.
You put Johnny Gargano in there against Brock Lesnar. Do people honestly think like if they were going to have a physical altercation, Johnny Gargano stands any chance?
Right. No, I don't think so. Like, I think that's part of the reason why people get upset on why certain guys don't get pushed to the main event level on the main roster, is just because it's like college football guys not making it to the NFL, or minor league guys doing well and don't, translate into Major League Baseball. It's all stuff like that. But I think there's a couple more questions here. How do you feel about the NXT India rumor to be happening?
Good
for them. It's a good
big market.
Very big market. So good for them. Going back to the 5 people to start our promotion, who would you have as the ring announcer?
Not Justin Roberts.
Quite honestly, if I had the money's no option, I'm finding a way to resurrect Howard Finkel.
Lillian Garcia.
Good choice. If I can't resurrect Howard Finkel, I would do Lillian Garcia as well.
How about Joey Styles?
He's not a ring announcer, though. He's a play-by-play announcer.
I know. Oh, my God.
What?
That was his catchphrase. Oh my God.
Oh, I thought you saw something in the comments. It was like, oh my God. Let's see here. Next question. Did you hear the news of AEW Evolution? No. Not familiar. Not sure what that's all about. AEW Elevation. I'll have to look that up after we're done here. With Raw's lowest ever rating, how much of it do you think has to do with cable cutting rather than just bad TV? Anyone that has a question on this, go listen to WrestleNomics. Brandon Thurston does a phenomenal job at breaking this down. I think that, yes, it's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. And he breaks it down so well. Raw's ratings is a lot more than just cable cutting, because SmackDown, believe it or not, their ratings have done better than the trends of television. Raw is almost double the drop of regular television shows. So I think it is just for some reason. And I said this when they announced it all those years back that they were going to 3 hours. It's the dumbest decision they could have ever made. No one wants to sit and watch wrestling on a weekly basis for 3 hours when you have SmackDown, I believe at the time, was on Tuesdays. I don't know. They kept moving SmackDown. But you have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown back to back. You get fatigued. Now, at least when it's spaced out.
You want a 2-hour Monday Night Raw?
Yes.
And are you also one of those people that would like to see the brand split end?
Yes. The brand split has to be done.
So how many wrestlers get released if you're now going down to 2 hours of... We're gonna have to do an episode on the brand split debate because I don't think that should happen. Mostly be for the talent's sake because I can't see how you could do a show with all the talent on. So what? Raw and SmackDown, they'd all work both shows.
Yep.
A lot of guys would have to get cut. A lot of guys wouldn't get TV time.
A lot of them don't get it now. So what's the difference?
Well, you could say goodbye to your mid card. Your mid card would be your B player. We'll have to do an episode on it.
Yes. All right, next question. Do you think Jon Moxley shows up at Wrestle Kingdom?
God. Sure.
All right. I know some people are asking which match could potentially steal the show. I'm not 100% on the card yet. I have to look at the card to really make that decision. But I am excited to see Naito and Ibushi again because those guys always have a good match together. Let's see. Not a question. AEW Elevation, I guess, is the new show rumored to launch in 2021. I guess someone's saying SmackDown was on UPN the last time they watched the full episode of SmackDown. Well, good for you. Good for you. Welcome to the WWE TLC prediction show where we're talking about WWE. But that's all the questions that I have here. Any last thoughts, Ralph?
No, I'm excited to see how the matches play out because I know that's going to largely dictate the push towards Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. So I think tonight will be our first glimpse at if those rumored matches are, a real thing. Because I think who walks out as champion in many of these cases is kind of like the first step towards WrestleMania season, if you will.
Yeah, I totally agree. It should be a fun night. I think the TLC matches will deliver. I think Sasha and Carmella could steal the night. The tag match should be good. We'll see what happens with Asuka's partner in the women's tag match. The Inferno match is going to be interesting, whether that's cinematic or not, but I think it's going to be a very intriguing night to close off WWE's pay-per-view calendar for 2020. And it's a good way that they're doing an Inferno match because this year has been a true dumpster fire, to say the least. But I do want to thank Tyler Mask, Siege Luigi, if I pronounce that wrong, I apologize, and Lee Jones for donating to the Super Chat Party. Again, if you guys want, we do have the SCPB, Squared Circle Psychobabble merchandise available, and the link in the description gives you 10% off with the promo code SCPB10. We got our logo. We got the Ratings 1849 t-shirts and Watch Wrestling Every Day. You can buy those now with 10% off. We will be back tomorrow to review TLC in a live format. So we'll do this all over again to review the show. Again, thank you very much for watching. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and join the conversation that way. Hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss an episode of the Squared Circle Psychobabble. For Ralph Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti. We'll see you all tomorrow on the Squared Circle Psychobabble.